Returning to our developing story, legal experts have voiced their concern over the India travel ban, some saying it could be unconstitutional. Let's go live to one of the nation's leading experts on citizenship law, Professor Kim Rubenstein at ANU. Professor, thanks for your time. Is the travel ban constitutional?
Sorry, just to correct you. I just need to correct, it's Kim Rubenstein at the University of Canberra, and I'm actually sitting outside here. You can see this is a real backdrop, not one of those pretend ones, because there's been a fire alarm in my building. So anyway, I'll get to the point, but I just wanted to correct that.
Oh, no problem. I totally understand that. So you've moved to Canberra University, but still
Correct.
In citizenship law, an expert.
I am indeed, yes.
Is it constitutional, this travel ban?
So there are two issues here, Kieran, with this travel ban. One is the question of the constitutionality of it, and there are serious questions as to whether it is constitutional. While we don't have an explicit citizenship right in the Constitution, nor do we have a Bill of Rights, there is a recognition that individuals as citizens have rights to return to their own country under international law and as a fundamental rule of law notion. There are also questions to do with the Biosecurity Act under which this determination has been made, and it's that Biosecurity Act that has question marks about its constitutionality, but also more specifically the actual section which provides for the minister to make the determination has clear requirements, and those requirements, there are question marks as to whether they've been met for this particular travel ban.
And if that's the analysis for this ban, would that be the same for the government's response that we saw initially with the travel bans out of China?
So that's a good question. There are two frameworks that the government have been using in relation to regulating people's entry. One is the the main one that they've been using has been the Air Navigation Act. So, you know, the caps on people coming into the country have been through the Air Navigation Act. So that's been one framework. The Biosecurity Act has been mainly used to prevent people from actually leaving the country. Up until now. So that is the other framework. So both of those frameworks have been used by the government to regulate people's travel.
So when you look at this, I guess, you know, we say it's unprecedented. Maybe the last time we've seen something comparable is over a century ago. Does that make the complexity of this, the legal complexity of this, all the more difficult given the nature of this pandemic?
Look, Kieran, I actually think it's an unprecedented step in the sense that it is extremely unusual for a government to actually ban its citizens on overall from returning to the country. So there have been instances in the past where individuals haven't been able to get a passport to be able to return, or there are in place temporary exclusion orders under the terrorist regime to keep certain citizens out. Now, each of those in themselves have raised serious questions as to whether it's constitutional to keep citizens out. But this is even more pronounced in the sense of keeping out actually banning a whole group of people from entering. And I think that there are really serious legal questions as to whether that's constitutional or in fact within the legislative power that the government's acting under.
So, Professor, do you think now, how is it tested then? Is it done via those citizens who were adversely impacted?
Exactly. So our public law system, I mean, we've got the accountability measures that people can go to their representatives in Parliament and seek for the Senate Standing Committee on COVID to really interrogate this. But more specifically for the lawfulness of it, individuals can go to the court, the federal court, to challenge the lawfulness of it. And it's in that context that we may see some movement over the next few days.
And for those Indian citizens, well, they're Australians, they're not Indian citizens, they're Australians of Indian heritage.
Australian citizens, yes.
They've actually not even been able to keep any, they're not permanent residents, they're not citizens of India, they've had to be stripped of all of those rights. I spoke to one man in Punjab yesterday, he was unable to get a vaccine because he's not a citizen, so they don't have any rights there either.
No, this is really an aspect of, I guess, international citizenship that's quite interesting here. Our passports say quite clearly when we travel out of the country and request of the other country that we are Australian citizens, and a request of the other country to take care of us when we're in their jurisdiction. This is the Australian government essentially saying, we are not going to continue to take care of you for this particular period, and we're expecting the other government to do that on our behalf. And so as an international citizen, it's not really sharing the load in that respect either. So it raises questions, I think, fairly as to how appropriate it is for our government to expect other governments to be looking after our citizens at a time of crisis, when there is the capacity to think of other mechanisms to get these Australian citizens home in a way that is not going to endanger the health and well-being of Australian citizens here.
Professor Kim Rubenstein at Canberra University, thank you for your time and thanks for making the effort despite the fire alarm. Great to chat.
Fire alarm, and now the rain coming down upon me too, Kieran. So thank you very much. All good.
Well, it was worth it from our end. Thanks for your insights as always,
you.
and we'll
Terrific.
talk to you soon.